In my previous videos, I shared more information broadly about what I was dealing with, what kind of symptoms I dealt with, and what brought me to functional medicine. I made a video about mold, finding mold in our apartment and how it all went. But in this video, I wanted to, it's kind of like a follow-up, a segue to that one. What do you do about it? And mostly like what I did about it and what I found helpful, what resources were the most helpful. And so I'm going to be sharing this information, continuation of the story, what happened after we discovered mold and so on. So let's dive in. Okay, so I discovered mold in the apartment, and the tricky part about this illness is that not only it affects your body and how you feel, and all of a sudden you're very tired and your cognitive function is affected. So you might be walking into a different room and be like, why am I here? And that might be happening very often, or in some other circumstances. You might be even forgetting some words. Very frustrating situation. And all of a sudden you have to deal with this big overwhelming thing of my living space, my safe haven is compromised. I'm not feeling safe here anymore. What do I do? And that is, I think, like another just like such a big added challenge to this illness, because you have to deal with it. And you know, any practitioner, any book on mold, any seminar that you will listen, everybody will tell you that the first thing is avoidance and the first thing is moving out of mold. Luckily for us, because that was a rental and because just we had the ability, things lined up, we were able to move out. Also, as you move out, you have to face that you have to get rid of a lot of things. All of the porous things have to go. I mean, like, it was very hard for me to get rid of our relatively new organic avocado mattress. The mattresses are expensive, especially that kind. But I definitely, you know, that was the protocol from multiple experts, and I definitely did not want to compromise my progress. And since my sleep was already very much compromised, I did not want to take any risks. So mattress was gone, and so were a lot of other things, and that is very hard. It is financially very hard. It is even harder if this is your home and all of a sudden you're facing testing and you have to find the correct inspector, and then you have to face cost of remediation. So realistically, it might not happen like, you know, right away. And that's a challenge about it, but that doesn't mean that you cannot do anything about it. And this whole thing leads me to my first resource that I found most helpful, and that is Dr. Jill Christa. So I knew very little about mold. Like, it was on my radar, but I did not research it before finding it in our apartment. And had I known better about, you know, how to deal with it, I would have made better choices. We know what we don't know until we know better. And okay, so Dr. Jill Christa, she has a fantastic book. I mean, books are such a cheap resource, you know, like, I don't know how much it costs to get it on Amazon, probably like under $20, but the book is called Breaking the Mold, and it is a very digestible, easy read that has a very clear protocol. You know, like, she's telling you the supplements, what would work, what would not work, and recommended dosages, side effects that you might have, like a lot of nuanced information. I really liked her, but I also like her very much because of her approach. Like, the supplements is like at the very end, and she has this approach that she calls peeling the orange. And pretty much there are steps, the hierarchy of treatment before you get to, and you have to follow it before you even get to, you know, certain supplements. And I think a lot of people are missing that. Luckily for me, I very much embrace that because I'm a functional medicine coach, and that is exactly what this is all about, the foundation. And so her pill and the orange steps were, so number one is avoidance. Number two are fundamentals. And when we're talking about fundamentals, it is the same things that you will hear me talk about for other things too, because they're foundational, like in the hierarchy of treatment in functional medicine, in naturopathic, alternative, integrative medicine. And that is addressing those foundational things like movement, stress management, sleep, and nutrition, which is obviously probably the biggest one, but stress is another big one. So once you address those things, and there could be a lot of gaps. It's like all about finding for those gaps and filling them in. You're giving your body the best chance for dealing with this kind of disease. And I want you to think about, like, you know, I think the best example that I can think about is like a marathon or triathlon. Like, you're not just going to wake up one morning with no training, and maybe you even like have like injured ankle that is still sore, and you just say, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna go and run a triathlon today, or do a triathlon, and just go for it because I want to be over with it. Like, the majority of people would say like that is absolutely crazy. Like, you have to have some preparation, you have to be in shape, and definitely you don't want to go there when you're like maybe recovering from illness, cold, you have an injured ankle. Like, it sounds crazy to do something so demanding without preparing for it, without you know, having things in place. And so it is the same for approaching mold illness and other chronic diseases too. So let's make sure your body gets enough nutrients through diet, right? Let's make sure that you're not consuming foods that are constantly triggering and burdening your immune system. And Dr. Jill Christa, she is big on bioflavonoids in nutrition. That comes before, you know, binders. So your nutrition, your diet is always before other supplements, and definitely before binders. And so what are bioflavonoids? They're those phytochemicals that are found in all the colorful fruits and vegetables. So essentially, and you've heard that probably before, plants, either rainbow of plants, and the more colorful they are, the better, because they're antioxidants. And there's enough research showing that they're very powerful. And so it's not only like what you should not eat, but it's also about what you should eat, you know, and focusing on that. And of course, there are some things that you should not eat. Don't feed that fungal overgrowth inside your gut. So you have to eliminate simple carbohydrates, sugar, and I would also, like she says, eliminate also all the fermented stuff, you know, like things that you would do on anti-candida diet. And I have something to say about that because that was my experience. Because I've eliminated sugars and carbohydrates, and I started feeling better. Like, I started focusing on protein and micronutrients, lots of fiber and rainbow. But I'm Ukrainian. I love my fermented stuff. I ferment, you know, I make my own sauerkraut, kimchi, and I love pickles. And I've been eating a lot of them. until I realized that those cravings were strange. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should eliminate fermented foods completely while recovering from mold illness. I think it's definitely personalized, but it should be on your radar. If you are still, you cleaned up all other things and you're eating fermented foods because they're in this healthy category, like they're good for your gut, but you're eating them and you're feeling worse, like there is bloating and other symptoms, they should be on your radar of things that, should be eliminated while you're dealing with this. And then you can slowly reintroduce them back. So that's another thing. And of course, other foundational things like stress. I mean, stress and cortisol affect your gut, affect a lot of things. So stress and sleep, you have to make sure all those foundational things are good, that you don't have any bad behaviors that are sabotaging your progress, because it will be hard to move to that stage of, if you think about a marathon or fight stage without this kind of preparation. Now the third and the fourth steps are protect and repair. And again, like there could be supplements there introduced, but there will be again like supplements that are helping to protect different functions, different organs, and repair them, versus taking antimicrobials that are going to kill fungal overgrowth in your gut and so on, or more aggressive detox. And so I highly recommend for you to go on Dr. Jill Christa's website, because if you're curious about supplements, she has all the recommendations there in her shop. You can look at that, what she has, and it's all in her book too. And the last stage is fight stage, what she calls, and that's where you actually get in and you do more intensive detox, and you take antifungal, natural antifungal supplements for a period of time. It all comes in stages. Even that fight stage has its own hierarchy, how it's going to progress. So it's not something that you're just going to get in and do and be done. So it's a long process, and that's how it was for me too. Definitely in the beginning, what I've learned is that you have to take it easy. Like, I have a type A personality. I'm just like, I can do this. I'm just gonna go for it. Let's just push through, suffer through, and be done. And that's not how it's working. Actually, the sicker you are from mold, the more gentler and slower you're going to go about it. Because if you're taking glutathione and other things and you are not feeling well, like if it feels like it's too much for your body, well, then it is actually too much for your body, and you just have to cut the dose. And sometimes, like what they're saying, you just microdose, and it's just a little bit, like just a tiny portion, and then once you feel fine, you gradually increase it until you can handle it. And so, a lot of people just say go for Herx, Herx adverse reactions like die off. But if you are so tired and you just feel much worse after starting the protocol, you're in bed and you're just like can't function at all, you can't take care of yourself, that's not good, and so you just have to take it easy. While you're thinking up here that you can handle it, your body can't, because like all of a sudden in that detox stage, you're just pulling things out, but things also have to move out. And and that's something that I did not discuss in the previous stages, and I guess that goes with like gut function too, is that in addressing detox pathways is that you have to make sure that things are moving. So mold will put you in this like stagnation state, because it's great. That's how mold can compost you. You know, in the environment, in the outdoors, mold is actually very important. Without mold and other fungus that are responsible for decomposition of natural matter, we would just have like all this stuff that would not be decomposed. And that decomposition is also important in the environment for, you know, they're breaking it down and making available nutrients for the soil. Anyway, so mold is important, but not inside our houses where it's like bringing a wild beast inside the house, and where mold doesn't have competition, there is no sunlight, it just likes this environment and becomes aggressive. It starts spitting out mycotoxins, which are damaging to us humans. So no mold in the house, but great outside in the outdoors where other species of mold, bacteria, and fungus can, you know, compete with it and keep it in check. Anyways, and I deviated to something else. I was talking about moving things through the body. Okay, so we were talking about the detoxification pathways and stagnation. So mold likes stagnation, right? And so it can affect your liver, can affect your gallbladder, and all of a sudden like bile is not flowing, and everything kind of slows down. It affects your mitochondria, your metabolism, and you also have less energy. You're not moving as much because you don't have energy. Your cognitive function is affected, and so like I definitely experienced that. Like you just tired and you kind of become like a couch potato, and that is not good for your lymphatic system because you have to move still. You have to move, and you also have to, your digestion needs to move. That's another thing, that if you're experiencing constipation, if you're not having at least one bowel movement a day, well, that's a problem because you can't detox if you don't have at least one bowel movement a day. And so that again goes into those foundational things where you have to support your liver, support your gallbladder, and make sure things are moving. And that's a little bit of this first resource that I wanted to share. So Dr. Jill Crystal, lots of podcasts, lots of information. You can also go to her website under resources. You will have mold questionnaire. So if you don't know if you have mold exposure, there is like a questionnaire that you can download that can help you navigate that. Also under handouts, and I will link all of this here under this video so that it's easier to access for you. She has a lot of resources there. So like also if you're stuck in mold, there are other things that you can do to your environment, and its air filters definitely can help. You know, Air Doctor, Telepure, there are Molecule, there are different ones that different practitioners recommend. And then she says dusting, make sure there is no dust. And she actually has a recipe for this natural cleaning solution, which is like wet vinegar, witch hazel, and essential oils that are specific for killing mold. So you can print that out from her website in handouts and use that. And that's a great resource. Another resource for you that I really enjoyed, it's Change the Air Foundation, which I will also link. And they had a summit last year with loads of information. So they invited a lot of mold experts there and talked about different subjects. And especially like, you know, they also brought experts on remediation and how do you detect mold. And so you can find all that information there. Watch that summit. It was also cool because there were a couple of celebrities such as Gwyneth Paltrow that talked about her own mold journey. I mean, it's just nice to see more awareness about this subject, because we have a long ways to go, I think, in rethinking how we take care of our homes, how we prevent mold in the first place. We might need to rethink how we build our homes and so on. So that's a great resource, and I highly recommend for you to go and check it out. And they also have like some printables and different things that you can get. Now I wanted to share my third favorite resource, and that's Dr. Jill Carnahan. So another Dr. Jill, who's also a mold expert, and I like her. Like she has information on her website, but I liked her book. Her book is called Unexpected, because again, for the same reason of like bringing validation. And when I read her book, it was emotional for me, because like, you know, you can just relate to somebody's journey and somebody's vulnerability and just say, yes, me too. And you know that me too in of itself is very healing when you're going through this. And so I highly recommend, like, if you would like to like more have a personal take of a doctor who also dealt with mold illness, but that book is more like her life story. And you know, she's also talking about being sick as a child and then getting aggressive breast cancer at 25, then getting Crohn's disease, and then getting mold illness. So it's a lot of things, right? And that's why I like her book, because it's a message of hope. Because so often we can just go into this like victim mentality of saying, why me? Oh my gosh, all these things are happening. And her book and her message is just so inspiring and uplifting. Just kind of like you can work through this, move forward, you know, hearing from somebody who went through so much. So let's talk about finding a practitioner, because even in the functional medicine world, there are not so many practitioners that are well versed in mold illness treatment. And I have experienced that, because I've been seeing a practitioner, and once we did the test, so the test that I did to confirm was a mycotoxin urine test through Mosaic Diagnostics, that was previously Great Plains Labs, and it came high on 3 different mycotoxins. Also, if you're interested to learn more about different specific mycotoxins and the symptoms that are associated with, Dr. Jill Krista under handouts has different printouts on aflatoxin, ochratoxin, citrulline, and so on, that you can print out after you do lab testing so that you can look. Anyway, so, you know, mold illness, you know, mycotoxins were confirmed, and we started putting together a protocol. And at that point, I already read some books, and my practitioner, she said, you know what? I don't know much about mold illness, but I will consult with my colleagues to put the best protocol. And I appreciated that honesty, because yes, indeed, not every practitioner is well versed in mold illness. But if you go on Dr. Jill Krista's website, because Dr. Jill Krista and Dr. Jill Carnahan, they, I believe, as of now, don't accept patients, but they're training practitioners. So through Dr. Jill Krista's website, you can find practitioners that took her course and got trained by her, and now they have kind of like this certification. And so there are practitioners all over the United States that you can find that were trained by her. So that's another resource too for you. Okay, and so that's kind of like about the practitioner, finding the practitioners. And it can be tricky, the access to practitioners. And if you're waiting, because sometimes there is a wait time, work on those foundational things, right, that we talked about. So that when you come, and it comes to that fight stage when you're actually taking the supplements, and doing the protocol, you're ready. It will be a much easier journey and you will have better success rate because you can't skip that whole portion. I hope from this entire video that point was clear and you just understand how important the hierarchy of this therapeutic care is. Anyways, and again, that is something that I do with my clients, and that's how functional medicine coaches fit into this. It's because functional medicine coaches can support patients or clients with this initial and pretty substantial phase of making sure that everything is in place before somebody starts protocol. So that was a lot of information. I'm trying to think other things that I might have forgot. Yes, there is a few more things that I wanted to mention. So one thing that I found very helpful when I was doing my protocol was doing infrared saunas. So at first, because I did not have a sauna, I just found like a little spa nearby, and I just paid for like a package of a certain number of visits, and I did it there. An interesting thing was that at first I had a hard time sweating, and that's another sign that your detoxification function is everything is sluggish, things are not moving. You have hard time sweating. Do you have hard time sweating? That can be a sign. And so with the sauna, you also want to start slow and just gradually increase it. And then I realized that then I was able to sweat more profusely and faster as I kept doing more saunas. But then I decided just to invest into sauna myself, but I bought a portable one because I just did not have the ability or finances, because it's a big investment to buy stationary infrared sauna. So mine is from Therasage. I'm not affiliated, but it's like one of those tents where your head is sticking out, but it does the job well. It's a great sauna, and I think it was a great investment, probably one of the best investments that I've done. So I do recommend looking into that. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I probably missed some things. And if you have questions, please message me so that I know what other things you would like me to address.